Hey, everybody. I wanted to come on here to talk a little bit about mental health. As many of you know, I have a history of mental health flare ups, mental health issues. And that's actually what got me into the field that I'm in today. It's what got me into the wellness industry. It's what got me being a coach. It's one of the reasons that I became a dancer. It's one of the reasons that I ended up coaching people in their bodies and with their mental health. Um, and I've been doing very well for a very long time. And this week I had a flare up. It was really, really hard. I had intrusive thoughts and images coming into my mind. I had little flickerings of suicidal ideation, which is very, very, very unusual for me. It didn't feel like me at all. I got very sick very fast this week. And I had about 36 hours that were really, really, really scary. And I just wanted to come on here to say mental health is health, right? and it can be very easy for us in the public space to not share about what happens privately, and for good reason, right? We should have boundaries around what we're willing to share and not willing to share. But I also think that it's important for someone like me who offers classes publicly, who has some small influence in the world, to be able to talk about my experience. And so I wanted to come on here today and talk a little bit about what happened and also about how I dealt with it differently this time than I have in the past. And that's not at all to say that how I dealt with it is how somebody else should deal with it, right? We all have our own best practices for what can make us feel better. Part of what was such a struggle in my mental health about 8 or 9 years ago was that I really didn't know what was happening. I didn't recognize my symptoms as symptoms. I thought they were like little quirks of my personality. And when things got really bad, I did not really reach out for help. It was really my long-term partner, Jack, who helped me. And then eventually I found a therapist, and over time I found a network of support, which has been amazing. This time, these 8 years later, this past week, I dealt with this very differently. I really dealt with this in a community way. Oh, my cat's meowing. I was with Jack when it happened, and he provided incredible support at the time, which I'm incredibly grateful for. But I also knew as it was happening that I could not let myself fall down the sorts of paths that I fell down in my 20s and early 30s, for lots of reasons. But one reason is that my family's survival depends on me being able to work right now and to be able to make a good amount of money. And so I do not have the privilege of being able to hide in my bed for a month. And I'm not in any way saying that someone who responds in that way, that's a bad response. And I have responded that way in the past. I've gotten quite healthy in these past 10 years. And so what I recognized when I had the flare up this week was I actually do have the capacity to continue to function. I just need to find ways to get through this and to find healthy ways so that this flare up does not become a spiral. So what I did, which is not necessarily what anybody else should do, but this felt very vulnerable for me and very different, and like I was really interrupting a pattern of myself, was I reached out in the morning. Like I had a horrible day, and then I went to bed and I thought it would be better. And then what happened was in the middle of the night, I woke up and I couldn't sleep. And then it was almost like I was being taken over by these thoughts and feelings and images. It was really scary. It was terrifying. I was able to, by about like 5 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, I was able to kind of calm myself down with some of the tools I've developed over time, that I've learned from all sorts of incredible teachers. Um, but then, I could see that my partner was extremely distraught. Um, and I sort of got myself calm and sat there and in bed. And I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to deal with this the way I did in the past. What am I going to do that's different? So, what I decided to do was get myself to a primary care if I could. There is some medication that I had taken in the past that was helpful. I don't necessarily love, for me, I don't necessarily love anti-anxiety medicine, but this particular brand had worked very well for me in the past. And it's a kind that isn't addictive, and you don't even actually need to take it every day. So I thought to myself, okay, I need to find a way to get back on that prescription. And unlike the past, this time I'm going to tell my community. So I started in the morning. Jack and I had a long conversation. And then I told him that I was going to deal with it differently than I had in the past. And so he could go tend to himself because he had been caring for me most of the night. And it was important that he could take care of himself. And so I reached out to a handful of close friends that morning and told them what was happening, like my nearest and dearest, to let them know what was happening. And then I immediately started calling some resources. And there was a whole complicated thing with my primary care, and there were, the healthcare system can be crazy, right? So I had this kind of insurance debacle over the last couple of weeks, and it was kind of a mess. There were several reasons that I couldn't see my original primary care. I had to be a little bit aggressive about getting an appointment. But I did eventually find someone. And eventually what happened was someone, like I went, and then they referred me to an emergency mental health center in my town, where I was able to, A, talk with someone about what had happened, and B, start talking with someone about like how I could get back on the prescription that I knew would work for myself. Now, this is not prescriptive for anybody else. And we all have our own ways of dealing with things. I just got off the phone with a dear friend who said when things like this happen to her, she needs to go very internal. She's an introvert. She needs to go very internal, process what's happened, and then she'll tell people after, once she's kind of synthesized what's happened. I just wanted to come on here to say, it's been a rough week for me. And here I am, and I still have a lot of, work to do in the world, both financial work, right? Like I have to be a provider in my family, just like my partner is. But I also have heart-centered work to do in the world. I got shit to do, man. People I care about. And I have things I want to share with people. That doesn't mean that I'm on the top of a mountain and that I'm, immune to all of the forces that are at play right now. And like, check it out, right? The world's crazy. There is so much happening globally right now and nationally. I have friends of mine who won't talk to each other because of the things that are happening in the world. It's intense. And that's just like the global. And then we all have the personal as well. And it's a hard time. So I wanted to say all of that. And then I also wanted to say, I hit the end of the day after I'd seen a doctor and gotten my appointment squared away and stuff. And then I hit I was like, okay, there's another group of people I want to tell. So then I told a whole other group of people what had happened, and it just said, I don't need advice or anybody to help me with anything right now. I don't need resources at the moment, but if you want to check in on me on the next couple weeks, that would be greatly appreciated. Just a little bit of support. And it made me feel really, really loved. And if you're still watching this, good for you. I'm a part of many, many, many communities. I'm a part of the Broadway community. I'm a part of the yoga community. I'm a part of the shamanic community. I'm a part of the Reiki community. I'm a part of the queer polyamorous community in Boston. I have a community of friends from Emerson College who I've had for over 20 years. Like I'm a part of many, many communities. And having all of these different communities was so helpful for me, and having all of these friends. And now here's the part where I come out and say, I haven't said this publicly, but I am polyamorous, and that the night after my episode, I spent the night with my second partner, Corrigan, who also helped me, right? It gave Jack a break, and Corrigan took a turn taking care of me. And I am just so grateful that I have two amazing, loving partners who could help me. My parents were extremely helpful. My community was extremely, extremely helpful. And then my extended community was extremely helpful. And I'm grateful. And 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have had this network. But even if I had it, I might not have known to reach out to them. Not that I needed people to save me, because I knew the only one who could save me was me, but that I did have support from loved ones, and that one person didn't have to do it all, right? One person didn't have to rescue me. I had several different people along the way who helped. And so this was Tuesday and Wednesday, right? And I'm recording this on Monday night. And the echoes of that have continued to move out, right? Which is to say that I still getting messages from friends checking in on me, even though I am feeling much more stable. And I know that for many people in a mental health crisis, this is extremely privileged that I can even say this, because I've done decades of work, and many, many people who would have had a crisis on Tuesday or Wednesday would not be feeling well today. I'm mostly feeling well, a little brain foggy from the medication. I think I have to adjust my dose, but I just wanted to be transparent about this, and that this has happened. And also just to say thank you to my community, but also if you are struggling, please know that you're not alone. There are so many people who have complicated relationships with their mental health, and we need to take care of ourselves, and we're taking care of ourselves under really hard conditions, right? I can't collapse. I actually can't totally collapse, because if I do, my family won't have a house to live in. So I have to work. And I did need to fall apart for 36 hours, because that is what happened. It's scary to even post this, because, I understand that lots of people could poke holes in whatever I'm saying with their situation. I'm not in any way saying that someone else should deal with this the way I did, or that your experience is like mine. Thank you for listening, if you're still here. And it's very cathartic to share this. Take care.